Hello, everybody, and welcome to my review of Scott Dickerson's newest film, The Gorge, exclusively on Apple TV. Not gonna lie, I signed up for Apple TV just to see this movie. I was kind of looking forward to this film. I mean, you have two of my top favorite actors in the world, and Anya Taylor-Joy and Miles Teller, and I really enjoy Scott Dickerson's work. If you guys don't know who Scott Dickerson is or what he's done in the past, he did great films like The Black Phone, which completely blew me away, and the first Doctor Strange movie. So this guy has a great portfolio of good, solid films. So after I saw the trailer about a month ago, I already had this movie on my radar. I wasn't aware that it came out on Valentine's Day, which makes sense if you actually see the movie. So I was really looking forward to this thing, signed up for Apple TV, which off the record, guys, this ain't sponsored by Apple, but Apple is actually a really good streaming service. A lot of great content on there. Spent the weekend just kind of binging through a lot of movies and shows on Apple TV, but The Gorge is what got me there. So without further ado, let's just jump into my review of The Gorge. What is this movie? What is the premise of this film? It's kind of simplistic, and that's what I like about it. And I also like that this is a throwback to kind of older school type of movies, and I'll explain more about that later on. So the premise of this movie is there is a giant gorge. Big surprise, title of the movie, Gorge. There's a gorge. And there's a tower on the east and west side of this gorge. And there are two people, one on each tower, that spends a year in these towers. And their sole purpose is to protect the world from whatever comes out of that gorge. So what's in that gorge? What like that's the mystery of the film. So you have Miles Teller, who's on one side of the gorge, and you have Anya Taylor-Joy on the other side of the gorge. These people are forbidden to have any contact with each other. And as the movie progresses, of course, the two characters kind of meet and kind of connect, and that eventually, evolves into a love relationship between Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy. And then something happens. Miles Teller actually falls into the gorge after spending a wonderful evening with his girl Anya Taylor-Joy, and Anya Taylor-Joy said, "You know what? That dick was too good for me to let go. I'm jumping in after him." And that's where the movie really kind of takes the massive turn. Also, I don't know if this is really considered a spoiler, but Sigourney Weaver is in this movie. She's not in any of the trailers, but she is in this movie. You can go on IMDb, and she's fine. Like, for what she was doing, I mean, she didn't have a lot of screen time in this movie, but she was fine for what it was and what she was doing. I mean, it was okay, but the movie falls and rises on the relationship and chemistry of Anya Taylor-Joy and Miles Teller. Like, you are invested in these characters. If you cannot get invested in these characters, this movie will not work for you, because this movie is very, very simplistic. What I really enjoy about this movie, like I mentioned earlier, like, it's a throwback to older movies. And what I mean by that is, like, movies back in the day just seemed a whole lot simpler, right? Like, we didn't sit down and we didn't break down the script and all this stuff. Maybe some people did, but for me, I just like watching a movie, not have to worry about social politics or any other kind of politics or DEI or this is woke or whatever. Like, we just watched movies back then, and we enjoyed the movies on the merit of the movie. And that's sort of what I felt like with this film. Like, this was a very simplistic film. It's a love story about two people that can't be together, that find a way to be together, and then guess what? Crap happens. And what I like about this movie is it's an action film, romance film, but it's also a sci-fi creature film. Like, there's parts of this movie that reminds me of The Last of Us, Resident Evil, like any other biochemical type, IP or movie or game or show that we've seen in the past. And there was actually a part in The Gorge where the cinematography was so good. Like, we were changing like different colors when we were going in the gorge, and at one point I was getting a Stranger Things vibe. I was like, oh, are they like in the upside down, because it kind of looked like the upside down from Stranger Things. And I thought that Scott Dickerson did a really good job capturing, like, you're almost in a completely different world. It's amazing. It's like everything seems normal on top, but when you get into that gorge, it's a completely different world. And all the creature designs and everything was so very well done. And, you know, it doesn't blow the mold of like, hey, we're doing something completely different. Because, again, a lot of what I like about this movie is because it reminds me of old stuff that I like Resident Evil and The Last of Us and any of those other type of creature films. That's what I enjoyed about it. It had that feeling and it really kind of like captured that. And I think, like I said earlier in the review, this movie really falls and dies on Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy. If you do not buy them, if you do not like them as a character, I don't think you're going to buy the rest of this movie. It's one of those things where you have to be invested in the characters. Like, this is a popcorn flick through and through. You're not going to get like the meaning of life. You sit down on the couch, you get some snacks, and you just enjoy this movie that has great character development, great dialogue, great action, great visuals, and that's pretty much what you're going to get from the movie. I really thoroughly enjoyed this movie. Like, I had a fun time just watching it, and I highly, highly recommend this film to anybody. I would recommend sign up for Apple just to go ahead and watch it. Apple, you don't have to buy an Apple product. I don't know how many people know that. You don't need to own an Apple product. Most TVs, I believe your Xboxes and PlayStations all have the Apple TV app. You can just sign up. They got a 7-day free trial. I promise you, I am not sponsored by Apple TV. I actually really, really hate the Apple company. But yeah, so I definitely reckon that's how much I enjoyed this movie. Is I'm sounding like a pitch person for Apple. And it's not true. But I really enjoyed this movie, and I highly recommend you guys go check it out. So in the end, The Gorge, highly recommend it. I'm giving it a 7.5 out of 10. I think it's a solid film, a throwback to all types of different genres, and I think Scott Dickerson did it again, ladies and gentlemen. But I want to know what you guys think. Have you seen The Gorge? Do you plan on seeing The Gorge? Leave those comments in the comment box below. Smash that like and subscribe button. And until next time, as always, I'm Robert Storms, and that's my opinion.